Welcome to the Wealth BuildHERS podcast, the women entrepreneurs' home for building successful businesses that generate passive income. You have entered a judgment-free zone, so give yourself permission to shake off all the things you haven't done, because your journey to owning a thriving business you love starts right now.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Wealth BuildHERS podcast. I am your host, Renee Williams, and I am here today with my co-host, Camille Davis, and we are talking to real estate investor Elissa Stone. Elissa Stone's background includes over 20 years of experience bridging business partnerships and building internal teams within the healthcare, staffing, and real estate industries. Like most of us, she has a varied background. She's done a lot, but she's focused it all in on real estate investing, and we're going to hear more about that. Her initial immersion in real estate started in 2010 under the mentorship of a CEO who served as the 2014 president for the Houston Apartment Association. Elissa's previous Fortune 500 experience, combined with her consultative nature and her business integrity, have set the foundation for her company, Acquisitions by Design. Today, we're going to have a fantastic conversation all about crystal clear criteria. That's Elissa's term, and we want to know, what does that mean? What is crystal clear criteria, and how can it help you to take your business to the next level? So here we go right now with Elissa Stone. Welcome to the show, everybody. We are here with Elissa Stone, and Elissa is going to tell us all about her real estate investing business. She is doing some phenomenal things in the real estate investing world. Welcome to the show, Elissa.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. I'm definitely privileged to be here. Thank you guys very, very much.
Yeah. So when I went to your website, is acquisitionbydesign.com,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So when you go to the website, there's just a wealth of information and so many great things. And I saw your bio, and in your bio, I see that you started corporate and then kind of eased your way into the real estate investing world. So can you tell us a little bit about how you started?
Yeah, I would love to. And I'll give you a little bit of background information if that's okay as well. So I'll take you back almost to when I was a teen, when I was 13 years old, and then I'll kind of put it all together for everybody. So when I was very, very young, about 13 years old, my dad, he passed away when I was very young at 16, but he sat me down and he wrote a sentence on a piece of paper. And I actually still have this piece of paper. And it says, if you had unlimited time, talent, money, and support from your friends and family, what is it that you would do with your life? And so I remember doing this exercise and going through and writing everything down. And one of my goals that I wrote down when I was 13 years old was to someday own my own company. And I never really thought twice about it. Again, after that, there were times here and there that I thought about it, but I was like, I don't know what type of company. I'm not sure that I could do it. There was always doubt in my head. And I didn't have that tangible element of what I was looking for to start my own business. So fast forward to about 19 or 20, that's when I ended up in the corporate world, and really how I started my career. I originally started at a .com startup in Austin, Texas, and then I transitioned to Robert Half International and really kind of got that corporate background. And then from there, I also did a couple of other things, like, for example, director of sales for a healthcare company. And then transitioning in life, I decided to get married and have kids. Wonderful, wonderful transition. But unfortunately, life did happen when my kids were 7 months old. So I've got these two beautiful baby twins, and I'm in this situation where I know that I cannot go back to my corporate career because I would be on the road 5 days a week and I would miss raising my kids. That was not going to happen. So it was at that point in time, my kids were literally 3 years old. And I vividly remember because it was on their third birthday. And I said, I'm going to start my own company. There's no better time than right now. I'm going to risk everything. I'm going to feel the fear. I'm going to go for it. I am terrified, but this is happening. And so I launched my company right at 4 years ago now.
Wow. How did you pick real estate investing? Was it just random? Were you already purchasing property? How did you make the selection?
Great question. I was educated a little bit in the process over my background. So I really kind of saw through a boutique real estate firm here in Houston, developing passive income and having money come in and, really kind of focusing on that lifestyle where you're afforded and able to spend time with your friends and family and your kiddos and have that flexibility. So when I was introduced to that model, it was new to me and the education really kind of stuck with me. And then from there, it was really truly about becoming part of real estate education academies and understanding what it was that I wanted to do and how I was going to make that transition once I started my company.
Yeah. So did you do like Camille Davis and drive around with your babies in the car?
I heard that story and I love it, Camille. Yes, very similar. When I got started early on, I was doing the single family redevelopments, so rehabs. And yes, there were times that I loaded up kids. I'm looking at homes. Of course, I did not take them in unsafe environments, but I would help educate them as we're walking around a house. And I'm like, hey, guys, Gavin and Layla, what would you think about this house? What if we did this? What if we did that? And now my son at the time being 3, he was more involved with the frogs around the house, but I was hoping to educate them as they come up through the years as well. So very similar to Camille, and yes, took the kids with me 100%.
I do think it's interesting. Sometimes we need that rock bottom moment to transition, to get I don't know if it makes us braver or if we just think, hey, I'm at the bottom, so I'm going to just do it now. But it takes that challenge. It takes that challenge of that life change to just really propel us and really make us take that leap to the next.
It absolutely does. And Camille, early on, and I've shared this in some other podcasts and even speaking opportunities, and I'll share it with you because it's very real and it's raw, but it's true. So early on, when I decided to start my own company, basically I'm starting my company from nothing, and I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it or how I'm going to put all the pieces together. But I had that intuition and I had that drive and I had that tenacity and mentality that no matter what happens, I'm going to make this happen. But to share, the trials and tribulations, there's been some up times and there's been a lot of down times. For example, early on, I had 2 different single family rehabs going on. And as we all know, that's a cash flow business. You have to have cash to do the rehabs, down payments. And so I'm looking at my bank account dwindle. And I'm looking my kids in the eyes, and I vividly remember this. And there was one time where I literally had $2.56 in my checking account. And I'm looking at my kids in the eyes and I'm looking at my checking account. I was like, wow. What have I done? What am I doing? And I made the decision right there that if I can make it through this, I can make it through anything. And that was a situation where I had to sell some things. For my previous marriage, I had to sell the ring, but I did what I had to do to get to the next step. There have been other hard moments throughout the time, but there's also been amazing moments where I look back and I'm like, am I really doing this? Am I doing it 100% on my own? And when I say that, I don't mean that you don't have these amazing team members or people that step in and help you out, like your lender and, realtors, things of that nature. But it's like, I look at myself and I was like, I'm very proud of all the trials and tribulations that I've gone through, that I'm coming through, that I will continue to go through, because I think it's an inspiration not only to myself, about your personal strength, but I also find people in the market who have gone through similar things that inspire me. And that's really, truly what it is about, all of us inspiring each other.
Absolutely. Elissa, I want to ask you a question about, first, let's talk about money. When you're first starting out and you really don't have a whole lot of money, can you tell us practically, like, where did you start from financially? Was
Sure.
it your own money or borrowed money, or how did you do it?
A little bit of everything. So when life happened to me, when my kids were very, very young, essentially I was starting basically all over. And, I couldn't go back into my corporate career because I would be on the road 5 days a week. I'm deciding to start, my own real estate company, which I invested the little bit of money that I did have in education, which was a substantial cost. But I also was looking at the return on investment that it would have over the years to come. I also utilized credit cards. I don't recommend this for everybody. It was a decision that I made early on. So I remember purchasing my first home, which was going to be a single family rehab. And there was no way that I should have been able to get financing for it. But what I did is I got very creative because I was not going to take no for an answer. And the way that I did that is, I'm doing my research on the market, different lenders, who are they? How do I work with them? So I had this one conversation with a company called Noble Mortgage. It had a really good reputation. I talked to one of the VPs within the company and he's like, well, we need this documentation. We need this. You need this much liquidity. And I was like, if I fill out this application, I'm going to get a no. And once you get a no, you don't get a yes. So I'm like, well, scratch that. I'm not going to fill that out. What's my next plan of attack? So I ended up doing research on who the CEO was and, some of the events that they have around town. And I showed up to the event and I spotted the CEO. His name is Daryl Dyke, wonderful guy, great relationship with him. And I walked up to him. I actually probably marched up to him because I was just on a tangent. Like I had goals that I wanted to complete. I extended my hand. I introduced myself and I said, hey, listen, I would love to sit down and meet with you for 15 minutes next week, talk a little bit about who I am, my background and my vision and where I'm going in this business. I don't want to take up too much of your time right now. I'll be in touch next week. And so it was about that follow-up. So where I'm going with this is, long story short, I sold myself. He saw something in me. He saw the tenacity. I sold my background and what I had done. There probably wasn't a very good reason other than that to take a risk on me. So I was able to secure funding on the first one. And I knew no matter what, I've got to perform, because if you perform and you keep performing, people are going to relax. They're going to work with you on different dynamics and creative deal structure. And that's what I've been able to do with Noble Mortgage over the last 4 years. And they've definitely been an amazing partner for me.
Wow. I cannot say enough about Noble Mortgage. I did one of my first loans with them as well. And Daryl is great people.
Yes. Oh, great company. Everybody that works there, I mean, amazing people. And now it's turned into something where I'm friends with everybody. Yes, we're, it's business too, but those are the type of people that I love aligning myself with in my business, because it's business, credible, ethics, integrity, everything's there. But at the same time, they're friends. Like you can, go have a dinner, or you can have, a cocktail, or get a big group together and have some laughs. And that's what's really cool in developing and starting your own business too.
Yeah. I want to unpack a little bit about education, because that is actually the way that Cammie and I met, is through an education or a mastermind group that we both joined.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask a little bit about the value, because you're investing in education. You were investing in that pretty early on when you didn't have a lot of money. What was it that you saw or that you thought about education that was going to take you to the next level?
Well, I attended a couple of conferences to gather information on some of these real estate education courses and academies. And I've always had that mindset as a person. When I do something, maybe the average time is a year. So I don't hold myself to that standard. If the average time is a year, I need to be able to do it in 6 months. And what is my plan and how am I going to make that happen? So that's what I saw as far as the education and coaching experience. So I saw all of this money going out the door for it that I did not have, that I did utilize a lot of credit cards and, basically maxed a lot of them out. But I saw I can take 10 years to accomplish some of these goals, or I can pay for this education and really fast track myself and be surrounded by like-minded individuals who are so much smarter than me, or that every single person I meet, I'm taking something away and learning something. And hopefully on some level, I'm able to give back as well. But that's what I saw as far as real estate education, and being around all these amazing individuals is the fast track. And it was well worth the investment for me.
Yeah. Cammie, you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I know that you're a huge one for education, and you belong to a lot of different types of groups.
Right. When I started, I did teach myself quite a bit, because I would go to my husband and he would say, we're not paying for that. We're not paying for that. We're not paying for that. I don't want to make him sound bad either. So I did do as much as I could for free. I actually didn't join any groups up front, but I do think the education is so important, because I know I would have been successful faster. I was successful fairly fast, but I did just, I think it goes down to what you're saying is I didn't take no for an answer. I remember the first time I met with the first realtor, she was like, "Oh, honey, this is going to be a lot harder than you think it is." And it was just this whole downer. Like, she just is like, "Yeah, everybody wants to do this. You're not going to be any different." So, but that actually fueled me, right? Like, I mean, I was a little bit disappointed. I was kind of like, "Whoa, that was rude." Right. But no, I think it just made me more determined. And I think that's when you want something and you know it and it just aligns with you. I think you don't give up. You just keep going. And then it does take a lot of work. It does take a lot of time. You get to that other side, kind of like you're saying now, it's just so worth all the work. And education is so important, and networking. I mean, the faster you can learn how to get that team, the faster you can surround yourself with good people, your life just exponentially increases and gets better around you. Yeah. Of course, you're number one, but then the people you surround yourself with really makes a huge difference.
And I love your background, Camille, and just everything you've done. It's absolutely amazing. And then I 100% agree with you. When people tell me I can't do something, or I sense that doubt, I think I go through about 2 or 3 seconds of doubt. And then at the same time, I let it drive me. I'm like, I love when people tell me I can't do something. I love when people tell me, no, you're never going to achieve that. Because I'm like, okay, watch out. I got this.
Yes, exactly.
Completely agree with both of you. Okay, so Elissa, let's talk a little bit about mindset, because you are very strong mentally, which is hugely important, because we get so discouraged when things don't go our way. How do you keep moving forward when a deal is falling apart, or you just feel like, I what am I doing here? Like, why? How do you mentally keep going?
Great question. Hands down, I would say if I had to attribute some of the things I've been able to accomplish, it's 100% mindset. 9.9 times out of 10, I maybe don't have the necessary experience, or, I'm learning as I go. It's mindset. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I won't take no for an answer. And if you do get that no, how do you adapt? How do you improvise and overcome it to be able to move forward? So it's a lot of reading books. I do go through on a monthly basis. I have my ups and I have my downs. And I usually have 2 or 3 days where I'm completely doubting myself. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know what I'm doing. This is too tough. This is overwhelming. This is scary. I just can't. And then I let myself be in that space, because I know I'm going to move past it. And what can I do in that moment to feel better? Is it books? Is it watching a video? Is it reaching out to somebody else and kind of communicating what I'm going through? And also being there for them, right? Because sometimes when you're there for somebody else and you listen, you're able to help them, it helps you. But to give you a couple of examples about mindset and tenacity and how you move forward, I had one individual deal. This was back in 2018. It was a single family redevelopment project. I'm going to spare y'all with all the details on how I got funded for a second one on top of the very first one when I first got started in the business, because that was creative deal structure in itself. But in analyzing the deal, I was very interested in it. And long story short, I worked almost 7 months on that deal just to get it under contract. There were trials and tribulations. I had, the actual seller verbally committing to signing, and then he would back out. So I went through all this, but I knew in my stomach, this is going to be an amazing project. I can help out the homeowner, right? Because I want to provide value to them and help them out in their situation. It's a project that I wanted to do. I was able to secure lending. And so once they finally signed, I remember having a conversation with another investor. He'd been in the business for about 15 years, and he's looking at the deal and he's looking at my numbers, and he goes, Elissa, don't do this deal. He goes, you're gonna lose. And he goes, you're never gonna be able to pull over $500,000 on the back end of this project. And I remember hanging up the phone, and I was completely defeated in my head. I was like, I've worked on this for 7 months. And I hang up the phone, and I'm just devastated. And I'm like, well, he's more experienced than me. He's been doing this for 15 years. I'm brand new in the business. But I felt something in my intuition. I felt something in my head. So I went back to my analysis because it is about the numbers. It is about due diligence and I'm reviewing everything. But then also part of it is that business intuition. And so I was faced with the decision. The decision is, do I listen to this more experienced investor and not move forward and always wonder what would have been and, basically be disappointed in myself? Or am I going to feel the fear, look at my analysis, trust my business intuition, move forward, full steam ahead, and listen, maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but at least I know in my heart. And what I ended up choosing is to move forward. And I was absolutely terrified. I had 2 projects going on, and it was actually during that time that, I ended up with the $2.56 in my checking account. And I knew people were watching in the market, especially this individual. And long story short, I ended up selling on the back end for $607,000. Could have got more, but I needed to turn it very quick because I needed the money. And it turned out to be this amazing project, amazing success story. I listened to my gut and my intuition. So that goes back to the mindset. Yes, the due diligence and the analysis was extremely important. But I'll give you one more example. I'm trying to refinance a property a couple of years ago. Again, new in the business, have no idea what I'm doing. I don't have any W-2s. There's no reason why I should be able to refinance this property. I get a no here, I get a no here. So I start to make a game of it. I have a whiteboard and I actually have another refinance going on now. But on my board, it says multifamily refinance no's. And so every single time I get a no, I'll put a check mark and then I'll take the information that they've shared with me. I'm like, how do I apply that with the next lender to overcome this? And this one particular example that I'm talking about, I got 7 no's before they finally did the deal and refinanced the project on the eighth time was the charm. So that's the tenacity. I wasn't giving up. It was going to happen. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, but it was going to happen.
Wow. I think I needed to hear that because I'm building these 4plexes at the University of Houston.
Yes.
And my builder has come in way higher. I mean, like almost double the price higher. And so then I thought, I can't make these numbers work. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't, my husband wants to sell them. But I have this thing in my gut and I'm thinking, am I crazy? Am I crazy for believing in this? But it's drawn by the University of Houston. And I keep thinking, I'm like, but the rents are going to be higher now. Yes, the cost is going to be more. The rents are going to be higher. And I even thought, even if I just held on to it for 3 or 4 years or 5 years, even if I'm into it too much money, right? I'm even thinking I might be into it too much money. But if I move forward, I'm like, this has got to work in the future. So this is a total faith play. I am hearing that the rents have gone up. I think the numbers will work. I'm just going to have to keep a lot more money into the deal than I thought I was.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it. I'm biting the bullet. I'm doing it. But it's totally scary.
Yes, no, and it was, and it always will be. And, obviously you're looking at your numbers and sometimes you do have to have that intuition and it's terrifying. And the way that I was able to move forward with that deal is I told myself, listen, I'm either going to be a success with this particular thing or I'm going to learn something, and it's going to hurt. It's going to sting. And I know people are watching, but I'm going to get back up and move forward. And it's like, how do you lose in that situation? Whereas in the other situation, if I just would have listened to him and ignored my intuition and my numbers and my analysis, I would have always wondered. And so I was like, I'm going to choose risk. And that's what I chose. And it sounds like you may be going down that path too, which is absolutely commendable. Only a decision you and your husband, obviously can make together, but I love that.
I think some people get confused between money and mindset.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that they think that they need money when what they really need is a shift in the way that they think.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I could not agree more with that because it's your mindset that is going to keep getting you to another level and to be able to push forward, especially when you're starting with very little. You're so dead on. I love that.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case because some people are so fearful, like they want to do all of the things. Both of you ladies are powerhouses. You're doing great developments. You're doing awesome things. And a lot of the listeners may be thinking, well, I just don't have the money to do it. And I'm thinking to those ladies, even if you had the money, but you don't have the right mindset, like the tenacity, that you two have, you still wouldn't do it. Like, you still won't do the project if you don't have the right mindset because you're too fearful to get it done.
Yes.
So I just want to say kudos and commend both of you for working so diligently on these development projects. I'm so proud to be in the midst of greatness. So
thank you. Like, I love watching Camille, like, on social media and some of the things, going on, and kind of how we came about and met. And it's the mindset, and it's also getting creative, right? Because in certain situations, I've been told, for example, on another deal, and then I'll get in how I transitioned maybe from single family into multifamily. But, I was told in one particular deal that I wanted to do, like, hey, you're going to need XYZ to come to the closing table. And when you start developing these relationships and you have a track record, you're able to do creative deal structure because you've performed and because you've produced. And so, in another example, I should have had about $150,000 to take to closing on this particular project. I did not have that. I had some cash tied up in other projects. I had about $50,000. And so I went to the lender and I said, hey, I've performed. I've done some pretty amazing things. Here's what I do have. Y'all have been great. So let's go ahead and close this out. And I knew in my head, the worst thing that he could do is say no, but what if he said yes? And here was the answer. He's like, well, I've never done this before. And I was like, well, I mean, you kind of own the company. You can make that decision and maybe get a little creative here and there, right? And the answer was yes. And I was able to close that deal. So that goes back to mindset, getting creative. Don't always take no for the answer. Lay down at night and let your brain go crazy and find solutions. Get creative. Worst case, you get a no. Best case, you get that yes, and you can move forward.
Yeah, Elissa, do you use a local regional bank?
That's been a transition. So I started out more on the single family redevelopment and rehab side. The plan was always to kind of build up a little bit of a nest egg, so that way I could get some liquidity in the bank and then transition to multifamily. I always wanted to go multifamily, and the reason for that is because I want the passive income coming in. I want to be able to be with my kids and take vacations and still have that income coming in. So to answer your question, what's gone on is when you transition, it's very difficult to get started in multifamily, especially when you don't have a substantial amount of liquidity in the bank. So you almost have to start at a smaller unit count and kind of grow from there and get very creative. So what has been a benefit to me is to utilize broker relationships initially. So in working with a broker, yes, you do pay a commission for that broker, but they've got these amazing established relationships with banks and credit unions that they're going to be able to get them to look at your deals over if I were just going in blindfolded without that relationship. So that's been my starting point. And then what's in my strategy, the more that I get underneath my belt on the multifamily side, I'm a couple of acquisitions in now. Now I'm going to start focusing on those direct banking and credit union relationships and go in and meet with them and have my credibility package, talk about, here's what I did on XYZ project, here's what's going on, and here's my numbers on this project. And moving forward, I would love to, have a quote from you from this bank and or credit union. And I believe that's really kind of the key into making that transition.
It kind of comes back to relationships. Like, relationships are so important, and don't do it all on your own. Yeah. You have to have those relationships, and it's key. So I love it.
Yeah. Which relationships do you think are most important, Elissa? So what I have is, when you're moving from single family into multifamily, first of all, I always think of starting with stacking. So starting with maybe a duplex, then a triplex, a fourplex, and then jump to a 5 or an 8plex or something like that. Like, kind of work your way up. But along the way, picking up a broker, a property manager, a bank, like, who's on your team that you're putting together?
You're essentially building your team day one when you decide to start your own company, and anything that you do, networking, events, and you may not always understand what you're doing or why you have this connection with a person, but then it all starts to fall in place. So for example, with an amazing lender, I can't tell you how many referrals I've received because I just send a text message. I'm like, hey, I'm looking for a great property management company. Hey, I'm looking for a great construction company. And then you continue to build this web and all these layers. And you meet people around out and, looking at homes. Like I met one contractor when I first got started in the business, and I still talk to him to this day. I refer people to him all the time. I was looking at a very interesting house. It was 100% tear down. I mean, like there were no floors. You couldn't even go up to the second floor. It was interesting. But this individual showed up. And so I introduced myself. I'm like, well, he's probably my competition. He's probably going to try to buy this, but I'm like, well, let me introduce myself. So we started talking, and I found out that he owned a construction company. That was his main core business. But every now and then he would purchase a home and do the rehab. So then I started utilizing him on some of my projects. And it's amazing. You never know who you're going to meet. I'll give you another example. There was somebody on Facebook, very random, somehow I'm connected with. I've never even met him. And I see in his title that he owns a construction company. And I was like, wow, let's find out a little bit more about him. Now, I have not personally met him, but he met with my property management company recently on my most recent multifamily acquisition to bid on about $150,000 renovation. And his numbers came in great. And then my property manager, the VP of the company, she was like, Elissa, I'm very impressed with him. So it's like, you never know what's going to come about from networking and who you meet in the market. And look at us today, like how we met. Amazing.
Right. Isn't that how it goes though? That's so true. Yeah. For like everything. Yeah. So how has your success affected you as a mom, as a wife? How's the family dynamic with
Sure. For me, interesting situation. So it's me and my kids. It's me and my 7-year-old twins. And I feel like I've really, I've dated here and there and I've met some amazing people, but for me, there were some things that I wanted to achieve before I was able to kind of open up my heart. And that's just kind of where I was at. And I think it was because, when you're carrying all this stress and you're trying to start a company and then you're in debt, how much do you really have to give? And I don't feel that's really fair to anybody. And so now I'm at that point, right? Where I'm very happy with where I'm at in life. If I meet a special somebody, that would be amazing. If I don't, I'm okay too. I've got this beautiful life that I've built up, a great company, kids. I still kind of sometimes live in that survival mode, and I'm not sure that that's positive. And so that's something I am working on where, for 5 years, I've been in adrenaline survival mode, like, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? So now I'm kind of at a place where I can breathe for 2 seconds, but I know exactly what my goals are. I know exactly where I want to go, but what I really want to focus on is achieving more balance overall in life, whether that be kids, business, relationship, vacations. I've been very bad about doing anything for myself. I'll take my kids on something amazing. But as you can imagine, taking 2 7-year-old twins to water parks and rivers, there's nothing relaxing about that. You have to be on. And so I need to spend a little more time on myself. So I'm really focusing on the balance now at this point.
Good for you. So good for you. So you mean to tell me that you are a single mom who is killing it in multifamily investing. You own your own company. You're doing your own thing. You're calling all the shots in your own life, and you are hugely successful. Like that's what I hear you saying, right?
Well, thank you. I mean, that sounds really, really nice and amazing, and I will take it. But there have been so many trials and tribulations, and you do go through moments in life where making parenting decisions, and, they do, spend some time, my kids do spend some time with their dad and stepmom, which is amazing. I used to have them full time, but it's, when you're running a company and you're the sole parent, you kind of question yourself, and sometimes you're like, well, let me call a friend and make sure I'm on track with this business thing, or let me make sure I'm on track with this parenting thing. Like, how do you do it? And so that's it. It's, again, you look at your network, business and personal, and kind of leverage everybody's, I wouldn't say mistakes, but kind of their viewpoint, their successes, maybe things that they've learned from. And I'm like, okay, good point. Okay, I'm going to do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
But no, I'm just thinking the kids are young too. Like that's what's so impressive, because it will change, right? And I'm sure you're feeling that it's changing, because mine now I have one turning 16, I have one that's 14, 12, and 10. So, when you get to that point, it's you're still busy, but it's a little easier. if, in my opinion, it's a tiny bit easier because they don't need so much direct one-on-one all the time.
I don't know. Compliments to you, Camille. That's a lot. Like when you have like multiple ages and teenagers, like, whoa, good for you. I mean, we're parents, right? We're parents, entrepreneurs. That's what it's all about. And it's like, you make it work. You figure it out. You do whatever it takes. And we all have moments where we're like, oh my gosh, I can't even see straight. And you're like, can I just rest for 2 minutes? But then you get back up and you know what those goals are. And, you know, you want to spend time with the family. And it's achieving that balance and striving towards your goals and things that make you feel good about yourself.
Yes.
I will say this, having adult children, my children are 18 and 20.
Okay, first of all, you look amazing. Oh my gosh.
She does. I tell her that all the time.
Thank you. And so, what I was going to say was, though, that they're watching. So your kiddos are watching mom build a business, which has a huge impact on their options in life. Yes, go to college. Yes, get a great education. If you choose to be an entrepreneur, be an entrepreneur. There's more than one way to be successful in life. There's not just the W-2, get good grades, go to college. Like, I want my kids to know they have choices. They can own their own business and live the life that they want to live. And they can have an impact on other people's lives because they employ people.
100%.
And as my last question, just kind of getting to the end, I wanted to ask you about that. Like, do you feel that what you're doing now has an impact on communities, on individuals who work for you? Like, what greater good? Because I see it. Do you feel like you're having an impact on others?
That's another really good question. And I've thought about that recently for a couple of different reasons. The biggest one is because I have, had some amazing speaking opportunities that it was such a privilege, for me to be up there. And I went through and struggled with, well, what value do I have to offer somebody? Whether it be a female, whether it be a male, whether it be a couple or kiddos, like what value do I have to offer somebody? And what I started to realize in my process and in my journey is I'm just going to be me. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to talk about my journey. My hope is that I'm able to inspire, some of the people in the audience or that I come into contact with, because I know so many people inspire me. But what I realized in speaking and, just being out in the market is when I'm up there, I'm talking to myself. So it maybe happens to inspire one or two people because, they commented. But when I get up there and I'm talking about projects and the fear and the doubt and overcoming it, I'm selling myself on how to get over that fear and keep moving forward and stop doubting myself. And I never realized that until recently. And so it's turned into something amazing because I'm preaching and coaching to myself and hope that I can impact others. And then I know so many people that I meet and that I watch and talk to, like they inspire me and help me to get over it as well. So it's really about all of us coming together and supporting each other's dreams and goals and building each other up. There's so much in this world where people are tearing each other down and being disrespectful and negative. I don't choose to be around that. We all have our moments where we're not perfect, but it's like, I love being around like-minded individuals that inspire me. And I hope that I can give back a little bit as well.
You have inspired me today. We'll just say that.
Oh, Camille, thank you. Your story inspires me. And then this podcast, so amazing. I'm so appreciative. I love what y'all are doing.
I have to say, Renee is all responsible for the podcast. And I'm so glad that I was able to meet her. I really am.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Thank you, Renee. Amazing outreach. Amazing.
I would say she's responsible for the women's group too. I knew I wanted to do something like that, but she pushed me forward and I totally, yes, 100% Renee is amazing.
Renee, do you mind if I ask you one question? Like what inspired you to kind of start the group and the podcast and all of that and bring everybody together?
So Camille Davis and Cammie I met her during If I Can Speak today. I do this for a living. Can't you tell? You're
the Oprah, and now we've booked it on you, right?
So Cammie and I met in a mastermind group and we clicked like right away. I just felt her energy. But what I appreciated was that I have done a lot of things that I felt like were a big deal for me, like owning 10 houses, being in a couple of syndications, like I'm in 108 units, actually, I guess 130 something units now, which is not a lot. But Camille Davis has put her hand on 200 houses or more. She's doing all this subject to. She has like muscles on her teeth. And I just admired what she was doing. And so I was like, you know what? I don't feel like I have enough, experience to teach other women. I want to partner with somebody who's absolutely like doing it, like she's walking the walk every day. And so that's how Cammie and I kind of found this synergy like between us, that I had this, back office operation speaking and getting in front of people. And she had all the knowledge, know-how, connections, contacts, boots on the ground, experience. And so you put all that together and it's like, wow, it's just
powerful. Powerful.
Yeah. So what the women are really learning from Cammie now, I mean, she's able to now voice all of her experience, kind of package it up and give it to people in a way that's deliverable so that they can impact their lives and change generational wealth for them and their families. And that was really the goal, was just to get her out into the world to teach what she's doing. And she's doing it now. And she's killing. I just love it.
Well, she's leading by example. So she is able to give people hope when maybe they're scared, maybe they don't know how to move forward, but then they're feeling the fear. And it's like, look at her. Like, she's done this. She's done this with kids, with a family, amazing results. She's overcome that fear and she's leading by example. Amazing.
Right. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. That was the goal. I don't like to be in front of people. It is so uncomfortable for me to get up and speak in front of a crowd. And it's really uncomfortable for me to kind of do this coaching thing, because I was like, then I start questioning myself. Before, I was doing it for me, but now I'm adding people in and I want to inspire people, but then I also feel this responsibility. So it's so uncomfortable for me. It's making me grow. And, that's where Renee's strengths come in. And that's where she helped me do something that was really uncomfortable for me. I can go buy all these properties and that's not uncomfortable anymore. But I guess the fourplexes that's a new thing. But that's why we need each other's strengths. And that's when you said, that's do you, because it's just reminding me, just do me. Not everybody's going to love what I do. I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I'm just going to be me, and I'm just going to say what it is. And I'm just going to do my best.
Love it. Elissa, tell me this, how many doors are you comfortable with saying? How many doors do you have now? Or
Sure.
And how many have you done like over time, even with the dispositions and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I mentioned I started single family redevelopment rehabs, and I did that for quite some time. Last year in 2021, I acquired my first multifamily property. It was 11 units. I wanted to start kind of small, get my feet wet, make sure I understood what I was doing. And then I just recently closed on my first multifamily syndication on the 20th of last month. So for anybody listening who doesn't know what multifamily syndication is, what that means is you have equity partners who also bring and contribute to the deal. They're very passive. So I'm the sponsor, I'm active, I'm doing everything on the property, I'm turning it around, but they're going to partake in some of the benefits, not only along the way in getting a return on their money, but also in the back end when we sell. As you can imagine, that's a very nerve-wracking thing when you're handling other people's money. And I do not take that lightly. So I went through all the proper steps of doing a private placement memorandum, having everything to a T in place. But what I've done is I've built up these potential equity partners over the last couple of years. It's about relationships. It's about showing them before and afters of other projects, really earning that respect and that credibility to where they trust me. And so in this particular deal that I just mentioned, I have both accredited investors and then I also have sophisticated investors. So there's a combination of the two. And that's going to be my path moving forward, is the multifamily syndication. My goals is to acquire 2 properties per year for the next 10 years. And my unit count, my target on the next one is going to be closer to 100, maybe a little bit under, maybe a little bit above. And the one that I just acquired, it was 24 multifamily units and a combination of 45 storage units on the same property. And there's also room to build additional units. So it's kind of a cool investment to be an investor on both sides.
That is pretty cool. Did you sell all of your single family properties, or you did sell yours?
I have 0 single family projects going on right now. I don't plan to go back down that route. Now I have people contact me all the time where they've got amazing projects and I'll go look at them and I'm not going to pass up a good deal. Right. So, I went and looked at one last week and it wasn't a fit. The numbers didn't make sense for me. So I will never fully get away from the single family side because I do enjoy it. And I do enjoy selling homes to these amazing families that are moving in and, excited about the transition and the newness of the home or the rehab. But for me, it really is the multifamily syndication, and that's my route moving forward.
I love it. I love it, girlfriend. We're on the same page. I got you. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Cammie, you have anything else before we go?
Oh, I think with all that, I think you do. So Renee and both of you started with single family homes, and I don't think you have to start there. No. But you find what it is that you love. You find your core genius and you move forward with that. But you have to do something. As you take action, then you get these contacts, then you learn what you really love. Then, it's moving forward. It's taking those steps forward. And so it's just amazing. I love both of you.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, Camille, if I can dovetail off that, just one last point, because I know we're trying to wrap up. I started knowing that I was always going to go multifamily syndication. And I knew I was starting single family to kind of build up some of the money and experience and, have some good projects underneath my belt to speak about. But along the way, and this is kind of like anybody listening, stay open. You never know what path life is going to take you down. And what I mean by that is early on, I ended up getting my realtor's license because I had paid a realtor almost $30,000 to sell 2 of my deals. I'm like, that's money out of my pocket, and like, no disrespect to that person, but I'm probably a better negotiator because I can sell, because I know the rehab and understand it. And in doing so, this is just a market wave right now, but I've started focusing on portfolio deals from a realtor's perspective. So what that means is you take an investor and say they've built up 30 houses as rentals and they're wanting to sell all in one package. Well, you can't list those retail when there's renters, and imagine all the different people going in and out. And so what I started selling is, let me package up the portfolio deal and bring you a buyer that's an investor that can analyze the deal and I can help them analyze it, that it's just turnkey. They're going to purchase it and walk right in. Maybe they have a different business plan. And so that's been amazing. So my point is, I never saw myself going down that route. I don't think it's something that's going to be around long-term wise. I think it's just a product of the market. But I did see the trend. And when you see a trend and you can make money and be successful in it, capitalize on it. And that's what I've done. And I've been able to, I think by the end of next week, within about 3 months, I'm going to have closed on over 24 million in transactions, real estate transactions as a realtor. And that's in 3 months. But it started with one lead and I saw the possibility and my mindset opened up and I'm like, well, if this is a possibility on this, I'm going to do some Facebook posts and I'm going to talk about it out in the market. And if I get potential leads, I'm going to aggressively follow up on those. And that has led to closing almost $24 million in real estate transactions in 3 months. Amazing, right? So stay open. You never know where life's going to take you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Cammie, Elissa just gave you Kyle's next business model. So the realtor. So that's what Kyle's going to be doing next, just so you know. Portfolio houses.
So I keep throwing him into more businesses and he just keeps looking at me like, what are you doing? Stop.
All right. Well, tell us how we can reach you. If we want to follow you on social, if we want to go to your website, how do we reach you?
Yes. Thank you for having me. Absolute pleasure. So appreciate it. And if anybody's interested in, connecting with me, finding out a little bit more about what I do, even if I can help you in some shape, form, or fashion, share, tidbits of advice or maybe things that I've learned. Acquisitions by Design is my company website. And then you can also connect with me on Facebook. It's just Elissa_Stone. And same thing with Instagram. So you can connect with me there. And then I also do have the Facebook for my company as well. And I sit up at a company called Total Wealth Academy, amazing real estate education academy. And so I do quite a bit of work with them, both, working with members and networking and just amazing friends and almost like family up there. So if anybody ever wants to come join one of those events, I'd love to have you as a guest as well.
Awesome. Elissa, we're here in Houston. You're here with us. And so I just wanted to point that out because this goes out around the world. And so if you are wanting to come to an event or an education type thing where you might be participating, more than likely that's going to be local here in town. Is that right?
That is correct. We do have online events as well. So a lot of times when there's amazing speakers that are educational speakers, anything from cost segregation to maybe a single family flip, maybe to lending, a lot of times we do offer live streaming. So you can sit in from wherever. So great point. Of course, if you're local in town, things are so much better face-to-face, but yes, the live stream is available as well for great education.
Well, Elissa Stone, thank you so much for joining me and Camille Davis today. We just want to say how much we appreciate you for coming on the show, and thank you for everything you're doing.
I'm so appreciative. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Camille. Thank you for having me. Absolute pleasure. And y'all are doing amazing things. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
That's all for this episode. Come back soon for more tools, resources, and great stories from successful women entrepreneurs. We believe you absolutely can build a business you love and have passive income. Until next time, thank you for listening.
Here we go.